the Atlanteans then started creating frontiers, banners, armies to defend these banners, and finally there were wars, and even nuclear wars. So this might surprise many of you, but as a matter of fact, there is proof that in the past, before 1945, atomic bombs exploded on the face of the earth. So, to give you one example, when some scientists, some engineers, were traveling in the desert in Egypt, at some point they were very surprised because their vehicle was crunching sheets of glass in the middle of the desert. And this was very strange. When the father of the atomic bomb knew about this, and he visited this, he said, well, these sheets of glass are exactly the same that are found in the United States, where nuclear trials have been done, nuclear essays, where nuclear bombs have been dropped in order to try the nuclear bomb out. The second example is in Mohenjo-Daro. Mohenjo-Daro is a city in Pakistan. And what is sad about this city is that one finds, archaeologically speaking, in this city an epicenter. And around this epicenter, all the vessels, all the rocks, well, they seem to have fused, they seem to have melted. And the buildings surrounding this epicenter, well, the bricks facing it have melted. And the bricks that were on the other side did not. Moreover, in Mohenjo-Daro, 44 skeletons were found presenting signs of calcination and carbonization. So all of this makes us think, all of us, of all the flood myths that are present in sacred scriptures, in mythology, and ancient texts. Because all these flood myths, they begin by saying, whether we talk about the Hebrew Genesis or the story told by Plato of Deucalion and Pyrrha, or the flood in Mesopotamia, etc., etc., etc. They all talk about humanity having degenerated, about humanity having waged war against each other. And as a consequence, God or Zeus or Allah or whatever the name you want to give it, well, sent to this civilization that had lost spiritual principles, well, a flood. But all of these texts also mention that a particular person, the Noah in the Bible, the Manu Vaivasvata in Hinduism, Deucalion in Greek mythology, well, he was warned beforehand because, well, he carried a good conduct. And having been warned, he was able to, as the story goes, build an ark or a boat, and in this boat then include his family, all the wise men, and a pair of male and female of all the species of the world, in order to be able to repopulate the earth afterwards. Well, this is what these flood myths tell us. But, as we will see, they carry a deep significance surrounding the submersion of Atlantis. Here I am going to show you a text translated by Le Plongeon, a French archaeologist, and that is found in the Codex Borgia. It is a Mexican codex that says the following. So, in the year 6 of Canon, on the 11 Muluc, in the month Zak, there occurred terrible earthquakes, which continued without interruption until the 13th Chuen. The country of the hills of mud, the land of Mu, was sacrificed. And then, going to the end, they sank with their 64 million of inhabitants, 8,000 years before the writing of this book. And we find this notion of catastrophe also in the sunstone, also known as the Aztec calendar in Mesoamerican tradition. And here we see, a particular symbol that is shown here, and that is the symbol of Atl Tonatiuh. So what does this symbol mean? This symbol is telling us that before the modern humanity established itself on the 5 continents, there was a previous one that was destroyed with flood, with water. And this idea of cyclicity that is present in this sunstone, because it also says that this is the 5th humanity that has inhabited the earth, and that 4 have preceded it. This notion of cyclicity is actually a part of geology. Geology, or climate change studies, they tell us that throughout the story of the earth, there have been many climate changes that are very linked to the precession of the equinoxes. And these climate changes, then they occur every 20,000 years, more or less. And, it is also in relation with the shifting of the magnetic poles. And so, if we talk to a geologist or to an expert in climate change, he will tell us that about 12,000 years ago, there occurred a drastic climate change. So drastic that, as a matter of fact, in Siberia, mammoths were found frozen, but as they were doing digestion, meaning they were frozen on the spot. And so all of this is telling us that indeed all the stories of the Great Flood, they carry a historicity. They're telling us of cataclysmic events that happened on the earth thousands of years ago. But as the flood myths also tell us, an exodus accompanied these flood myths. And so, in the case of the Genesis, this exodus was headed by Noah. And as a matter of fact, this biblical Noah represents a man with an awakened consciousness that, knowing what was coming on the Atlantean humanity, decided to gather all the people with goodwill who were working on the awakening of the consciousness in order to create a seed for a future humanity. And all of this then ended up by the Atlanteans, some going to Tibet, establishing themselves in Tibet. Others traveling to Egypt and settling there their pyramids, the Sphinx, their technology, and others in Mesoamerica, where the civilization of the Mayans, the Aztecs, and the Incas flourished. And in reality, that is where our humanity comes from. Our humanity that is populating the 5 continents, well, has a glorious past, the past of the Atlanteans, the humanity that each one of us is a part of. As a matter of fact, well, is the continuation of the Atlantean tradition. But we have lost a lot of things. And, well, this is something that was found in a Chaldean text, and it is very interesting for us to reflect on it. So, the sage Mu is said to have claimed this: if they forget, meaning all of us, that they must be superior, not for what they get, but for what they give, they will have the same fate. So, in order to conclude this exposition, this talk, it is, as we mentioned at the beginning, important for us to consider all these facts. It is important for us to reflect on where do we come from, what is our past, in order to understand, well, this present moment is the result of what? And, well, what we can see from this talk, from this reflection that all of us we did together, is that time, as a matter of fact, does not improve society. Time does not improve the human being. There is no such thing as rectilinear evolution. If we want improvement inside ourselves, as we were saying last time, if we want improvement in society and in the world, then our only hope is the awakening of the consciousness. So, before we take some questions from you, we would like to present a little bit more what is it that we do and the continuation of this.